Alright, chat, what is this about? Competitive matchmaking? Blind date introduced by elders. 2 Swedes in an urban area doesn't respect you. How many years older than you? Dude, what the frick?
So at this point, there's no doubt that the dating market in China has skyrocketed to, I don't know how many levels of difficult there is, but it's pretty high up there. So not only has the number of single men drastically increased, but the amount of people who are now actively leaving the dating scene is on the rise as well. And I kind of respect that, you know? That you can always just leave. Yeah. That's always an option. Now, this has led to an interesting moment where we actually get to see the effects of voluntary and involuntary celibacy affecting the wider economy.
Oh my god, he's just kicking her! I mean, she's just kicking him!
Oh, what a sentence. Okay, for example, because less and less couples are getting married each year, we see a decline in the maternity industry, which checks out. And whilst the media tries not to explicitly make the following connections, we know that more and more people becoming single has got to be the reason, or at least a contributing factor, towards why the pet industry is now slowly rising to a major part of China.
Pet babies, man. I'm telling you, white women love their pet babies.
Economy. And pretty much at this point, everybody knows that the dating scene has hit rock bottom. But when it comes to actually facing the issue together, the relevant stakeholders at hand, which is pretty much every single participant within the dating market, are not necessarily uniting their method of approach to tackle the topic of discussion. And this of course includes the percentage of the couples population who are
significant portion of married Chinese couples, specifically 22%, experience sexual infidelity. 1 in 4 chance of getting cheated on while married in China. I need to see the statistic on that. That sounds insane to me.
know for a fact are dying to get a piece of this pie, which is actually none of my business, by the way, but y'all are scat, unless it's consensual. Regardless, the point of this rambling here is supposed to tell you that both dating market participants—
I don't believe in polygamy because everybody's bound to get jealous because humans are innately monogamous, and I think that polygamy does not result in benefiting anybody, not even the person that's, you know, the enforcer of it all. Even if it's like a man with a bunch of wives, I think that the man suffers as well, like getting ripped apart.
And wider Chinese society continue to hold the opinion that the problem should be addressed. But not everybody takes the same approach.
Number of single men per 100 single women in China, rural areas, urban areas. Yeah, I did a study in college, not a study, but like I read a study where I had to write a paper on what happened in, I think it was 1998, where they started talking about the one-child policy, or when it started being enforced pretty heavily. And now in like, I think past 2010, they realized they fucked up really bad
in how they participate within the dating market. As the old saying goes, all paths lead to Rome, but not everybody takes the same path. The second part is not the old saying, it's the first part, but like, you get what I'm trying to— Traditionalists, for example, often made up by a slightly more mature audience base, believes the solution towards fixing the dating market and the singleness epidemic is to repatch the arranged marriage meter because it's one of the only services that exists.
Honestly, I can't say that, like, I disagree, but I also don't know if it's a good idea, because it's like, what if I get arranged marriage? That might work. It does work! It does work, but it also doesn't work. They can be very, very bad. I've heard nice stories, but I've also heard horrible stories of people hating each other for 60 years. And then they die and they wish they would have married someone else.
Where you get full transparency on what you're supposedly getting into.
But then you could also say that about, like, normal marriages, too. I don't know. I'd have to, like, really read up on it. I can't really give, like, an honest opinion.
But the downside towards this method of approach is that you get very little say on who your partner is actually going to be. Personally, I think that's a little counterintuitive, because in the scenario where you rush into a relationship where you haven't spent enough time and effort to get to know each other to the full extent, there are of course other issues as well that can arise, for example, like having a lack of trust within the relationship because you didn't spend enough—
Says he does laundry, doesn't do laundry. Says she cleans her desk, only cleans her desk once every fucking 5 days. I'm not lying.
enough time building it in the first place. And I swear to
Michael,
God, this
what
is
the
an actual
frick?
complaint I've seen before. It's the fact that the agency or the broker offers no customer support hotline for when the relationship doesn't work out post-purchase.
True.
Fair enough. I mean, if you're gonna make it a service, at least make it comprehensive. Idealists, on the other hand, are made up by a slightly more innocent and younger generation, and believe the solution to fixing the problem is, of course, reviving authentic connections.
That's not gonna happen. China is so integrated. They're even more integrated into social media than the West is. I watched this really famous Invoker player. He's one of the best Invoker players in the world. His name is Sumiya, and he doesn't stream on Twitch. He streams on some Chinese equivalent of Twitch, that basically is spammed with ads for like mobile games. I'm not even joking. I forget what it's called, but is it Billy Billy? No, it's not Billy Billy. It's something else. But like it's crazy to me because they're more chronically online than we are. Genuinely.
Basically just means more people need to take the initiative in putting themselves in environments where it can happen naturally. Because honestly, it's actually pretty important to have the idea that fundamentally, love should happen when it's at the right moment, and
True.
romance should feel spontaneous and not forced. And whilst this is a great solution on paper, the method here adopts the assumption that everybody has great social skills and hobbies worth talking about, and has the mental and social capability of striking up an interesting conversation with a stranger in a public space. Now, here's an interesting
My hobbies involve video games, anime, and cute anime girls. That's not me. Is it Do-Yu? I think you're right. I think it was Do-Yu.
and extremely niche report conducted by Seoul and the University of Shanghai. It was a collaborative approach that found the amount of people that are finding it easy to socialize with one another is slowly decreasing with each.
Majority of Gen Z is willing to socialize but experience social anxiety while doing it. But the way you get rid of social anxiety is if you keep doing it over and over and over again. That's ultimately what it is. You don't really get over social anxiety. You just you would get exposed to it enough times where you don't feel it as badly. It sucks, genuinely. As someone who has social anxiety, I'm a really anxious person and I overthink every single interaction, no matter what it is, online or offline. I get it, but you just have to get over it. I know this is gonna sound really harsh, but I genuinely mean it.
New generation, even when asked about how they feel doing it in their favorite hobby circles. Now take what you will out of that information, but you gotta remember one thing. All they did was just ask 3,000 people of their current user base, so maybe take it with a grain of salt. Now somewhere between the middle, we have more and more people adopting the realist build. Believe that love is possible only through dedication and hard work towards self-improvement. Now they don't—
Bro, am I crazy? This is fine. Dude, this guy looks like a supermodel that's gonna go audition for Superman. This is fine. You can even see his abs. What the fuck?
Self-improvement.
Sorry,
now they don't make the mistake in—
Not too fat. You are off your rocker. I know you're joking, but holy shit.
Idealizing romance, because love is part emotions and part logistics, and as long as you put in the work, you will get your reward proportionally in return to what you have to offer. In theory. In fact, I dare say some people watching right now would agree to this idea and would hold their ground and stand firm in subscribing to this idea. Well,
but Chinese culture is not, or sorry, I shouldn't label this like Chinese culture. Eastern culture is it's about hard work and like, I don't know how to explain this. I'm not very eloquent, but it's not the same as Western culture, and in Eastern culture, family values and your worth, your monetary worth, is really, really put up on a massive pedestal. Wow, Alana, wow? No, it's not. No. Don't take this with any offense. I mean this in the nicest way possible. I lived with a lot of I lived around a lot of Asian people because I lived in New Zealand, and there's a big Chinese population as well as like a mixed other Asian population. And I could tell just like visiting people's houses and stuff as like a friend, they really do value family status, and if you do not meet that status as a child, like if you're not a doctor, you're a disgrace. Like I got that too. I'm Russian, but like not as badly as them. If you don't study like 20 hours a day, you're a piece of shit. I saw it multiple times. I'd go over to like Sarah's house or Emma's house, and I'd be like, "Can Emma go outside and play?" And they're like, "No, she's practicing her violin for her violin recital." And I'm like, "She's been practicing for that for like 3 weeks. Why?" My parents are strict too, but like, damn, like Asian parents are even more strict.
That's until you hear about this.
Russians do that too. That's news to me. Oh, absolutely. Slavic people, Russian people, Ukrainians, yeah, like everyone. On the eastern side, they are like Asians are like on another level. Slavic people is like ballet, piano, violin. You have to be a doctor. You have to be an engineer. Yeah, they can be crazy about it too. Don't get me wrong.
Story.
And
Meet
gymnastics,
Li Hua, a
you're
25-year-old top 50
right.
global university graduate with a stable job and income, and ownership of property and car in the city of Jinan. Now, he was surprisingly having a little bit of difficulty finding a suitable partner despite being on already 10 to 20 dates. And the counter-argument to cases like Li's, which naturally presents itself in the eyes of the realists, is that there's always a magic number to your problem. Because the nature of statistics tells us, supposedly, that the easiest way to increase the likelihood of something happening is to rinse and repeat within your realms of possibilities.
You're not wrong, but at the end of the day, you're not a computer. You're also like a human being. After a certain point, your will kind of breaks. After like 50 failed dates, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm done. I'm just gonna be a need or something. I don't give a shit anymore.
Until it happens. But my carefully curated counter-argument to that is, of course, Li Hua's story happened 11 years ago. He's still single. Now,
He went on 124 blind dates in 8 years, reported 2022. I could never. I'd die.
Now, I actually wasn't going to include the full story, but upon reading his full experience, I'm not joking when I say this is possibly the biggest L I've ever seen in my 25 years of life. Okay, so Li actually went on his very first blind date back in 2014, arranged by his family through a matchmaking service. Now, this is how he documents the interaction, okay? He still remembers that first girl clearly. In his words, she was stunning, like influencer level beauty, and that's without filters, just naturally gorgeous.
Wow.
Now, the girl was actually a student counselor at the University of Jinan, which is where this man works. And apparently, she thought Mr. Li was decent as well. But here's the twist.
Decent. Not enough money, not hot enough.
Li chose not to pursue her. And when prompted the question why, in his own words, he claimed that she was just too good. I felt like...
Oh. No, Mr. Li, what are you doing? You pissed it away? This is what I mean. People's self-esteem is really bad. Even in the East, bros. I always see people making comments and being like, fuck China, fuck this, fuck that, fuck communism. But they're people just like us, man. Too good for me. What if you're that bad? Like, I have self-esteem issues too. I think everybody does in their own, like, in their own way. He actually unironically ruined his own life. He self-sabotaged.
I didn't deserve her. Not only was she beautiful, but she was mature, ambitious, extremely capable in social settings, the full package. And this is the line that sent me, okay? Being with her felt like I was a level 1 player going up against a max level boss. It just wasn't fair.
Oh my god, he was doing a raid boss at the final, like, raid, and he's level 1 in Elwyn Forest. He's like, I can't do it.
He said meeting someone like that made him feel like she was out of reach, way out of his league. Now, since that date onwards, Li stopped being skeptical of matchmaking. He thought to himself, if that's the kind of person I can meet, maybe it's worth trying. Li then went on to complete 123 more matches, spending...
That's a lot more integrity than people have on losing streaks on League. He's got a point putting that back up in the background.
An estimated range of 50,000 to 100,000 yuan throughout the process, with no success.
What?
Now, I want to be honest with
Where's
you
this guy
here.
get the
If
money
this was
from,
my
bro?
dating career, the only way you can possibly find this out is if I physically died and someone left it in my will. This might just be the biggest fumble in history. Then, of course, we have the materialists, who don't exactly fall into the spectrum in a traditional sense, because like the idealists who also chase a concept of romance, or a version of love that perfectly aligns with their desired lifestyle, many materialists would argue that they're just being honest about the harsh modern realities, especially in a dating economy where the cost of being in a relationship has just never been higher. And of course, when you then follow up with the
True.
question, bro, what does that all mean? Most of them will just tell you they want someone who's hot, rich, and loyal. The reality, of course, when it comes to
Rich
seeing
and loyal.
die-hard
You can't have all three.
materialists in action, they usually just reduce
It's
their
a
cutthroat
trifecta.
criteria of hot, rich, and loyal down to a more realistic criteria. 2 out of the 3. That's all you get.
I promise. I swear to God. I swear to God, I didn't pre-watch this. I'm just saying, you gotta pick 2. You can't have all 3. He's either hot and rich. He ain't loyal. He's either hot and loyal. He's not rich. He's loyal and rich. He's not gonna be hot. Yeah, like, it's not hot and rich and a narcissist. Yeah, I mean, like, the loyal is not there, so.
Yeah. And you know, my advice here is that if you do come across these
It's
type
the
of people in your
trifecta.
social
It's
network,
perfect.
instead of contemplating whether or not they're a good demographic of people to involve yourself romantically with, you can always just become their good friend instead, because whilst they don't always have the most romantic relationship, they always have the best stories to tell. I love you guys. But personally, I think
True.
it's kind of unfair to hold an entire single population, whether fragmented or not, collectively hostage and then demand a magic solution from them. Because most of what's killing the dating market today are things that no one group of people or demographic can actually.
Dude, they are so like us, man. They are so like us. They always got the big people at the top rooting for everyone else. They're not so different, chat. Wow.
Actually fix or reasonably control. Because whilst things like gender imbalance, right,
Instead of Jeff Bezos at the top, it's, I don't know what his name is, Health Hall, Hanshang Industrial Holdings. Yeah, dude.
reasonably control.
They're
Because whilst
human.
things like
They're human
gender imbalance,
beings.
rising cost of living, looks inflation, consumer dating culture, dating
Oh my god, the laboo-boos.
fatigue, and overall
Don't be
distrust
sick.
towards the opposite gender, decline in social skills amongst men in the Zoomer population, can all be attributing factors
have it
towards
too,
why
bro.
people are becoming single. We all know that the
Happy
real
bear.
reason is simply because the best dating show in history hasn't dropped a decent season in years. So I think in order to understand the current state of the dating market, we'll need to first begin simplifying the problem. And to achieve that, you can kind of think of the willingness to escape single life as a spectrum that you can stand on. For example, people who care about being single, and people who don't. With people who care about being single likely spending the most amount of time and effort to escape their current situation, whereas people who don't spend relatively much less effort and urgency to escape. For example, if Xiaoming, sitting at one end of the spectrum, cares a lot about being single, then he may potentially be willing to spend up to 300,000 yuan a year just
And then he gets, and then the money funnels back up to the dating industry, to the matchmakers. Yeah, they don't ultimately want you to be happy. They just want your money, chat. A premium matchmaker known for VIP services. You want to meet a 20-year-old millionaire and celebrities. So basically, they don't have Tinder Platinum Edition. They have Platinum Edition for matchmakers that let you talk to hot, rich women and men. Yeah. I love how Lana was right on the don't give a fuck part of the graph. I mean, it's just true. I don't know what to say. It's almost like I've seen this game before. I've played these games before!
to sign up to a VIP diamond tier matchmaking service in hopes that he'll be introduced to the perfect woman. He knows that statistically speaking, the chances of finding a good and successful match in the short run is very low. But he
Holy shit, 4 to 8%? That's most... That's way higher than a WoW mount. I would take my chances.
does it anyways because he fears nothing. Then Xiaohong, sitting on the other end of the spectrum, who is
I don't
generally
give a frick.
unbothered or nonchalant about being single, would more likely find the idea of meeting someone naturally by spending most of her time in social or hobby circles she enjoys to be the right play. But we
That's
all
good.
know the real intellectual powerhouse here is actually Xiao Wang, who would just have his mom cross-post his stats in the city.
I would actually die. My mom and dad are kind of like this, but thank God they never actually went through with it. Like, I don't know, man. Chat. Why a dog? 'Cause they think dog characters are cute. have you had like people threatening you to like find a friend of a friend that they had their parents try to say, "Oh, I'll try and set you up with like, I don't know, my boomer friend's like daughter or their son or something." It's happened. Oh, it's so icky. My parents have threatened me, but like they've never actually done it. Yeah, it's very, 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 very weird.
Gay marriage market and all relevant social platforms.
And apparently in China, it's like actually accepted because their family dynamic is different.
Wait for the results to come in themselves.
You
and of course, when we're on the
Westerners are
topic of dating
spoiled.
and marriage and parental influence, the same research that we talked about earlier, the one with University of Shanghai, suggests that parental pressure is still one of the biggest influencing factors when it comes to shaping children's views on dating and marriage.
And that's definitely part of their culture.
Now, this is actually a good statistic to have because now we can factor in parental pressure as a key driving point in the phenomenon we see in Chinese dating market.
Why are you still single? Why are you still single and stupid and fat?
Phenomenon we see in Chinese dating market today. For example, people who care about being single with parental pressure is more likely to participate in matchmaking and other fast-track dating methods because they have a much greater sense of urgency to escape single life and meet obligations. People who don't care about being single but have parental pressure on their backs could potentially either turn to dating apps or attempt to find meaningful personal connections through more organic routes like hobbies and friendship groups, or established communities in order to find the right partner. But it does run the risks of having no urgency, which can lead to the individual spending the majority of their youth in semi-serious situationships.
Motherfuckers will do anything but get married. Pay to like get like very hot supermodels to lay on their cars.
That doesn't lead to fruitful outcomes in the long run. Now, people who don't care about being single with no parental pressure,
they're animals.
How does it feel? But of course, at the end of the day, another great soft skill to have that translate into dating success is of course the ability to communicate your emotions clearly and concisely to the other party. So say what you mean. You'll do everyone a favor. And even though 62% of Chinese Gen Z respondents believe the concept of marriage is frightening, I think a tip that you can always remember to help you feel a little better is that how can you be scared of the concept of marriage when the issue of the singleness epidemic is not solved in the first place? Just so you know, if I'm found incapacitated in the streets after the release of this video,
I like this
guy. I probably deserved it. And of course, up to this point, there are people left that I haven't really covered, and these are what I like to call outliers of the dating market. Because whilst the singleness epidemic is a standard issue across dating market participants, it doesn't necessarily affect everybody to the same degree. Some people are drowning in love, while others are drowning in loneliness. I mean, you're both technically drowning, but only one of them actually wants to die. So from the male side of the outlier spectrum, we have people who can successfully pull off the Jackson Wang haircut. In fact, the whole spectrum might as well just be called how much do you look like Jackson Wang on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is single because he's literally—
Is this their frick boy haircut? This is their fuck boy haircut, right?
Jackson Wang, and dating will only negatively affect his generational run. On the female side of the spectrum, and perhaps the true apex predators of the whole dating market, who's never really suffered from the singleness epidemic.
It's all the women's fault. I freaking knew it.
Is the tier 1 city rich single auntie with no kids. And whilst the individual's initial reaction to entering this kind of relationship may be to question whether or not it's actually real love, the feeling will quickly fade away after a few sips of your $15 milk tea riding shotgun in her Bentley Continental. Now,
the hags? The Chinese hags? Oh my goodness!
Despite being on top of the food chain, there are still issues that plague the Ivy League equivalent of daters within the Chinese dating market. And that is the concept of expectation to reality. And this essentially just refers to how many people that actually exist in the population that satisfies your criteria. For example, if you're satisfied with somebody with an ordinary job, not too ugly, and has the ability to support a family, that's approximately 80% of the population. If you're looking for an attractive and well-established individual with a high-paying private sector job and a well-established social circle, the figure then sits at roughly 10%. If you're looking for a bilingual, well-groomed man with wealth, power, and status so untouchable even celebrities cannot hold a candle to him, please feel free to submit your application to the state council. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.
They're a coveted, like, prize, bro. Dude, I like that. Dude, I love the Chinese memes. Though you really, really solidified my love for the Chinese memes, bro. That was a really good video. That was funny. J Gao. Go check them out.